the cheap seats. Very good. All right. Once again, welcome back, everyone, to our 5th annual BSides Tampa. Throughout the years, this thing of ours has grown. Originally, we started off around about 300 attendees. Now, today, we have 750. So it's growing, and the ship will probably be a little bigger since we're crowded out. But thank you guys again for coming out. We appreciate it. Once again, my name is Derek. The person who's been emailing and spamming everyone. President of IC Square chapter in Tampa. President membership. We are already members. Included in your fee is a 1-year membership to our chapter, where we give you discounts to other activities such as meetings that we put on and private events featuring training classes.
Hey, turn the volume. We can't hear back here.
Okay. I'll talk louder. All right. With your admission, you also get a 1-year membership to our Tampa chapter, where you get discounts for other activities that we host, such as training classes, labs, social nights, movie premieres, etc. So congratulations, you are a member of the chapter. Give yourself a round of applause. Now, before we begin, we have a couple of quick announcements to actually announce. First, where is everything at? Today, we actually, this building was not large enough for everything that we have hosted. This year is one of our largest B-sides. We have over 40 speakers, 10 tracks, 4 different demo labs, such as Lockpick Village, Hackerspace, Career Village, etc. So it's actually a large B-side this year. So we actually rented 2 buildings. This building here and the building next door, which is Chester Ferguson Hall. Now, the next question is going to be where is everything at? So we actually kind of listed it out. In this building, you'll have track 1. This is track 1 in this particular room. This is where most of our keynote talks are going to be. The rooms to the side are tracks 2 and 3. They're also recorded. This year, we're only recording 3 tracks. This track and the tracks are in the other 2 facilities. Upstairs, you have track number 4, which is our dark track. Our dark track are a track that we are not recording. The speakers do not want to record it, and they do not want to pass out their presentations afterwards. So with that already known out there, if you want to see a talk there, I suggest you actually go see that earlier, get a seat early. The other tracks will be recorded, things that track 4 will not be recorded. It's in the large conference room. Track 5 is the small courtroom off to the side. And also we have stream e-waste recycling, where they will be collecting your used electronic waste and disposing of it. If you have a hard drive, I know everyone's paranoid of security concert, you can always take out the hard drive and we'll recycle everything else. Old wires and bolts will take care of that. We have our Lockpick Village, hosted by Augustin Lockports. Also, we have an ice challenge this year, where you have 5 minutes to get out of handcuffs while your hands are submerged in ice. If you do, you win a prize. It's called freezer bite. So. We also have a badge assembly and our break room. If you don't know where the break room is, if you go straight up the hallway, all the way to the end, there's a break room with snacks and everything else that meet your needs. Also the bathrooms. Please do not urinate outside. We got enough people out there doing already. There's 2 bathrooms on the side here, upstairs already. Now, in the other building, this is actually the fun building. If you have not had a chance to go to Ferguson Hall, please make sure you go. There's a lot of great activities that we have scheduled over there. First, from DEF CON, we have the Kayak Village, which is a great village that they're setting up now. We have the Capture the Flag, which is being hosted by ReliQuest. Test out your skills, see what you can do, see how you measure up. We also have our career track, hosted by Kathleen from Career Resources. If you're attending the career track, please bring a copy of your resume. We will have a resume review workshop, and we'll also have people there interviewing and hiring also. We also have our escape room, hosted by Living Security. Now, this is not your typical escape room where you look at a book. This is actually an IT-based escape room where you have to do a little bit unencrypting, find a particular file. So it's a little bit more challenging also. And finally, we have our game room set up over there. We have a couple of arcade games set up just for people who want to blow 15 minutes. So we actually have a lot of stuff going on in that hall over there. So please feel free to stop by. Now, other stuff that we have additional food trucks. We have a great selection. We have Disco Donuts, featuring fresh donuts, barbecue, pancetta, and also Mexican, because everyone likes tacos. We have a free photo booth. If you want a free souvenir and you want to take a picture with your favorite speaker, Outside, we have a photo booth, free pictures and souvenirs. Knock yourself out. They're here all day. Please take advantage of it. I don't want to leave with just one picture taken. And of course, the dot of anonymity. What the hell is that much to say? Outside on the registration table, there are little dots, little red dots. I don't have one with me, but trust me, they're out there. All throughout the day, we will have photographers taking pictures randomly of the conference. If you do not want to have your picture taken, please grab a dot and put it on your badge. This tells the photographer, I don't want to be photographed. Our photographer will not take direct pictures of you, but we'll take crowd shots. If you have that dot somewhere on you, that tells them, please don't take my picture, and they'll actually abide by those rules. And finally, additional parking. Now, one here can hold up to 2 or 3 cars, but we have more than that coming in. So we actually rented out the BSides Tampa's interstate parking lot, which is down the street here. It's only about a block or 2 walk. We have the whole lot, so there's no need for any type of passes or anything that you need. You just pull in there and stay without get towed or ticket, so you're safe. All right, this is my favorite time of my talk. It's our mailbag. After each conference, we send a note out to random attendees asking for their opinion. Like a sadist, I actually read some of these. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. So let's take a quick trip and see what's in our mailbag and talk about it. Okay, one email we have, dude, where the hell can I park my car? Like I said, we know the parking lot was actually kind of full. That's why we rented out the interstate parking lot. We rented out an additional 100 spaces. We did not charge you. We actually ate it because we appreciate that you guys come out. So once again, feel free to park over there. We just ask that if you do not have a disability or handicap, please do not park in the handicap zone. These are reserved for people who actually need it, who cannot walk that far. So please do not park there. We will actually move or tow it. So, yeah, thank you. Next one we received was, how can you guys run out of food? Who here attended BSides last year? Alright, so hopefully we're part of this squad of food. Hopefully you guys got food. We're not cooks. We are unpaid, untrained volunteers. So instead of purchasing food, we actually rented out to food trucks. Now, we didn't realize how much food you guys eat. The food trucks actually ran out of food. Someone got fed, some didn't. So this year we actually went back, we had new food trucks come, and we told them that we have a big crowd, and they are not vegans or vegetarians, they eat a lot. So they are prepared. Once again, we have 4 food trucks. Some of you guys have been window shopping at the barbecue food truck out there, so please feel free to stop by. Most of the trucks will start serving around 11 o'clock, so please feel free to stop in and grab whatever you want. A lot of great variety this year. Next, how do you pick your speakers? Well, this is a long task. We have around 40 speakers, but we had around 80 submissions this year. So how do we pick our speakers? Traditionally, we would actually go out and ask our members to rank their top speakers from 1 to 10. Then we actually put them through a matrix. Now, the way the matrix is set up, we divide it up into 13 different domains. And each speaker goes into a domain that corresponds to their talk, either IoT, networking, cryptography, etc. From there, they're giving a certain amount of points based on selected criteria. Are you local? Is this your first time speaking? Is this a new talk? Has it been done within a year or two, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And then also our point that our members gave you. From there, we actually able to pick out which speakers we're going to have. Now, the reason we did this is because this way we can make sure that we have a broad variety of talks. I'm sure no one wants to spend 8 hours hearing IoT talks all day long. So we try to pick enough talks that spread, that go the whole tangent of the spectrum. And also they help reduce our bias. You know, just because I may not like a particular speaker, you may not hear him. So that's why we try not to actually just rely on our own personal opinions. Next, the rent is too damn high, and so are your ticket prices. Not really. Whenever we make our budget each year, we actually look to see how much it's going to cost to host this, and we look to see what conferences are going on in Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, and we look to see what are the average price. And we make sure that our prices are half of what's being charged at other conferences similar or this size. So our ticket price for $40 is actually really cheap for 8 hours and 40 talks and all this other fun stuff. So, ticket prices are not high. I go to several cons a year, and they are free. Why do you guys charge? Well, the reason we charge for a couple of reasons. First off, we love our sponsors, don't get me wrong, but we don't want to completely have to rely on them for the whole entire sponsorship. We have turned away certain sponsors who ask us to do things that we don't think are moral, such as, hey, I'll sponsor your whole entire conference, but I want the email addresses of all the attendees here. We don't do that. Or, hey, you know, our company recently had a data breach. We would like to screen what talks you have to make sure that no one brings that up. Don't do that either. Hey, we're sponsoring everything, so we should be able to choose who speaks when. Now, so we decided to do a hybrid where we charge you a certain amount and we use our sponsors to help balance it out. So that way, we're not relying on them, and they're pretty cool about what things we do, and they leave us alone. So they do a great job of helping us, and we help them out also. Also, privacy issues. One thing we do try to emphasize is your privacy. Recently, we moved from Eventbrite and Cvent to Regfox. Whenever you guys register into Regfox. Why do we do that? Well, because Regfox guarantees that your information is not sold. And Eventbrite and Cvent, we don't own that information. So any information you put in these platforms become property of Eventbrite or Cvent. So to protect your privacy, we purposely try to go to extremes to make sure that all your data remains confidential. What do you guys do with all the money you collect? We buy gold. Lots of gold. Yeah, Bitcoin. Well, BSides is not a one-day event. BSides is a multiple-day event. Besides this, we also give over $5,000 each year to college students, or high school students for college. We also host network events. We also support local IT STEM groups and classes. So your money doesn't go to just this one-day event. It goes for events that we host all throughout the year. So once again, we're different from most conferences you'll see. Now, that's all that I have. Yeah, sure, question. Oh, it's Helen Keller 68, capital H, capital K. Helen Keller 1968. I don't make these passwords. If you forget, just talk to the guard at the station. She'll give you the password. CPEs you have to post them yourself. The reason why is that we don't keep track of when you come and when you leave, so we can't say, oh, you're here 8 hours, you come for lunch and leave. So we ask you to submit your own CPEs. Any other questions? Okay, well, what I'd like to do now is introduce one of our great sponsors. Well, all throughout our 5 years, one of the sponsors that have been always with us through thick and thin and always helped us out whenever we needed was ReliQuest. So I'd like to bring up one of their chief operating officers there, Joe Partlow.
Thanks, Eric. Really, just on behalf of ReliQuest, I'm really proud to be associated, and all of us are, with BSides. It's amazing every year this comes together and hang out. Involved in the periphery, it's just amazing how much hard work goes into this all year. And I'm just amazed every year how much attendance goes up. It's well run, it's well organized. It's one of the top BSides as far as attendance goes. A lot of that comes down to really just a great local security group here that we have in the Bay Area. And a lot of people travel from out of state to come to this, which was really a testament to that. Also, just from the other sponsors, we've got a ton of great sponsors every single year, and proud to be part of our company, proud to be associated with all that as well. Really, I think the credit goes to kind of the whole BSides group. Derek and Lori and all the other volunteers. Let's give those guys a round of applause. It's a tremendous amount of work and just a small piece that we're involved with. It really is a year-long effort. So, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce someone for the keynote here. I've been lucky enough to know this individual for long before we worked together. He's had a great career with Central Command. He was CISO. for Central Command, Army for 27 years, West Point grad. Really just a great individual. And since he's come to work at ReliQuest, he's been a tremendous asset for us, not only from his leadership, from his knowledge on threat intel, because he does run on threat intel and red team initiatives, but really just an all-around great person and someone that I trust a lot and go to for any kind of advice or leadership help that I need. So, and on top of that, probably the best fisherman I've ever met in my life. Ask him anything about fish, he'll know. So, Colonel John Berger.
Thanks so much, Joe. Hey, good morning, everybody. You guys want to talk about fishing or cyber? I mean, I can go either way. I can be convinced. Spring is here. Listen, thanks, Derek, for allowing me to speak. I don't know about all that matrix and all of the evaluation criteria. I don't know how I made it through all that, but somehow they asked me to speak, and I'm happy to do it. Look at all the events on the calendar for today, and I know I'm going to learn something. What I always say about cyber is I never overestimate what I know, because there's so many things to know in this business. So what I endeavor to do today is give you a couple of thoughts, a couple of my thoughts on a way to approach improving your security. And we do some of this. One of the things I do within ReliQuest, I have a red team. We address customers. I have a content development team, guys that instrument the environment, and I have a small intel team. So, kind of some of the things that I used to do when I was in uniform, just trying to apply some of those concepts. But anytime after the talk or during the talk, hit me up with your questions. How many people here are former, current military? Nice. Thank you for your service, no matter how you serve. That's one of the things that makes America great. Thank you. How many people are part of the intelligence establishment? Come on, because I'm going to say some things about you today. I got to know where you're lurking. They never say anything anyway. I knew even if you're in here, you're not going to say anything. How many people fancy themselves as testers or aggressors or in the offensive business? Yeah, I know people in here aren't raising their hand. All right. Without further ado, I'll get busy here. I got the slides. Hey, Wyatt, come on up here. This is one of my best guys, so he's going to run the slide deck. He said that's why they pay him the big bucks. All right. You want me to help you? All right. Yeah, he used to be on this picture, but not anymore. Go ahead. Next slide. Quick agenda there. We won't spend much time on it. Go. So let's talk about a couple of things, right? This is a no-brainer. It's just a cool slide. All of the numbers that have to do with cyberspace are going from M, million, to B, billions. And so any metric that you look at, whether it's websites, whether it's the number of people on Facebook, really? Who's on Facebook? Why are you on Facebook? So really go to the next slide. I'm not going to spend much time on that. This is an important slide. So what all that device landscape means is more what I call in my own business attack surface. Right? That means there's just more stuff to attack. That means more coders are making more mistakes and more things for me to get into. So that's kind of the first component of this unmanaged risk that we are seeing. The second part is the threat. Right? There's been a lot of changes over the threat since I kind of joined here. I was focused on nation-state threats in most of my career, not much on the criminals. Now in the commercial sector, all my clients care about criminals. Because that's who's hitting it, right? They want credit cards, they want healthcare information, they want anything they can sell or monetize. So the threat is resistant, is resilient, is persistent. So that's the second part. And there are safe havens. We call them safe havens. When we want to go into a certain nation and ask for their law enforcement to help us extradite or otherwise prosecute criminals. Do you think we get support in a lot of countries? Some, but many where they reside, we don't. That's the second component. And the third one is kind of emerged over the last probably, I don't know, I'd say 8 to 10 years, which is now we have this hybrid infrastructure. Most of the CISOs that we talk to, we're moving to the cloud, some for business, some for actual critical line of business. So they're moving to the cloud. And so now we have this hybrid infrastructure. We don't have visibility of it. And we're not able to do much about it in the terms of cybersecurity controls, right? It's not like I can put whatever I want in that cloud service to get visibility or put in blocking controls or isolation controls or quarantine controls or anything. I can't do any of that. So that's the third component of what that thing in the middle called unmanaged risk is going on. So this thing just keeps getting bigger with the bigger trends in all three of those areas. Next slide. Okay, this is where when I ran these slides by some of my guys last week, they go, that's really thick, man. I'm not sure you're going to get that by this. I'm like, give me a second. Let me explain this slide. This slide is something that I get in trouble sometimes because I talk about cyber as a domain, as a domain of warfare. And nobody wants to hear that because we scare people when we talk about that. But at the end of the day, when you look at this as a domain, everything applies. There are some things that are unique about it, right? Characteristics, it's global, it's lightning fast, it's all those things. But at the end of the day, there's a complex, adaptive bad guy on the other end, right? We call it, who's the carbon on the other end of the fiber? And how do you get it like that? Who's the bad guy in the hoodie on the other end? And, so we look at things in a battle space way. So, you have land, maritime. Who's Air Force? Really? Really? I love you guys. I love you guys. We got the Air Force. Jeez, I can't even say it. What resort were you stationed at? I love you guys. I really do. So you got the air, land, maritime domain. And at the end of the day, let's break this down a little bit. So I'm a commander, I'm a land guy, I'm an Army guy, right? I'm an Army dog, whatever. I like Marines because they're on land too. Navy guys are unstable because they're always floating. And Air Force guys are up here. So as a land guy, I would get a piece of land and I'd have to defend it, right? It would be my area of operations. It's the thing that I have authorities to defend and I have the most visibility. So when I convert that to cyber in the network domain, that's my own network, right? I'm allowed to put controls in my own network, and I can, hopefully, if you're any good, like if you can't see your own network, that would be very bad. Yeah, that's my plan. That would be very bad, right? So, but you should have complete visibility and authorities to act in what's called your area of operations, right? So that's kind of your organization, if you can see the screen up there. And then you have this thing, this area of concern that we call the area of interest, or the area of influence. And that's a place where, you have partners on your left. So I, as a land guy, I'd have this piece of dirt, and my fellow company commander would have a left and a right, and I could talk to him and say, hey, the bad guy's coming this way, help me here, help me there. So it's an area of influence that I can influence it, but I don't necessarily have controls there, I don't necessarily have authority. So how does that map in this world? In a lot of ways. So I've got all kinds of third-party risk, right? I've got all kinds of third-party risks in my current environments. So I've got partners, suppliers, I've got vendors, I've got all those folks, like cloud providers, all those folks that I can influence, but I can't necessarily put the control where I want to put it. So it's called the area of influence, but it's part of your battle space. So it's part of that thing that I talked about in the beginning that you have to have some visibility of, because it's a part of that unmanaged risk. And then there's that last part, which is your area of interest. Right? These are things that could affect you. They can affect your operations, but you have usually no visibility, usually no authorities. So like in a land thing, it would be, the nuclear missile coming from, the home base of the guy you're fighting. You have really no ability to see when that's coming. You have no ability to influence that at all. So in this case, it's all about really the big bad internet, right? So there's things that are happening way outside your visibility in most cases, and way outside your ability to control. So, if you look at the trends across that, as you go from left to right, you have decreasing visibility, decreasing controls. Now, the good part about it is that the intel thing is kind of different. Proactive intel increases if you can get it from far away. If you can get intel from what's going on where the bad guys are talking, that's good. And you get increasingly proactive intel if you can get it from your partners, if you can get it from your industry, if you can get it from the deep dark web. You can get it from all that stuff. That's all good. So just a little bit of, just a way to think about your battle space. It's just another way to think about it. Who's going to go in on Monday and go, I learned about battle space, boss. What do you want to know? Yeah, you let me know how that works out. Or, is that a good idea? Oh, all right, that wasn't scripted. That one's not good. Go. That was slow. That was slow. All right. Another military term. Essential elements of friendly information. Okay? Put that aside. What is it that I got to know about myself? Right? That's really what that means. And what I want to know about myself is probably more about what the bad guy can see about me. So if you focus on the questions here, don't look at this as one of the thick slides, by the way. This is one that, there's a lot of stuff on there. Yeah, there is. Let's focus on the questions. The first question is, what am I exposing to the adversary? What can they see about me that I don't want them to see? So we'll talk about this more, but boy, do people leave stuff out there. They give it away. They give it away, right? People put all kinds of stuff everywhere, and they give it away. The second question is, what is my third-party risk? That's probably one that most people have the least visibility on. Because what happens? IT guys hook people up. Wait a minute, who's an IT guy? You admit that. No, I love IT guys that turn to cyber guys. They have to be. If you don't know how stuff works, you can't secure it. So, do you have something to say, Jonah?
Yeah, back when I started, I was good back at.
Oh, you did cards, huh? Do you have any? You still home, huh? All right. Bring him next time. So the next one is that third-party risk. How exposed am I to these third parties that I really don't know how connected? And then the next one in the middle there is, hey, how exploitable is my attack surface? From all the different vectors. So there's a number of vectors up there. Typically when we test, and I will get to testing, we look at 4 main vectors. Social, physical, wireless, and technical external, so technical. And so how exploitable is my attack surface? The next one is post-exploitation. And we used to use this term, had these operators, they would come, they're all about C block maneuver. Yeah, okay, that's pretty hard to do in cyberspace. It is, but it applies. And this last one here is if somebody gets in, how easy is it for them to move around? How easy is it? I mean, some days when we get in, it's just touchdown, right? Everything's flat. It's like a super highway to the critical asset, right? So that's a critical piece. It's one of my favorite areas to focus on. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But how easy is it for the bad guy to maneuver inside my network once they get a foothold? And then the last thing is okay, now I'm moving around. How hardened are my critical assets? How hardened are the things that make the business run? And it doesn't matter whether it's data, whether it's operations, whatever the biggest impacts would be, whether disruption, destruction, theft, whatever they are. So, I usually talk to seniors about, do you know the answers to these questions? before we get into a discussion around testing. Next slide. Assumptions. What? Music. Stand up. What are assumptions?
Assumptions are the mother of all screw-ups.
That's what I tell them every day, right? And sometimes I use a different word. But listen, and what do we do as professionals too often? We assume that our controls are always working. We assume the vendor said this. Bullshit. The vendor says it works great, right? The vendor says it works great. We've configured it perfectly, boss. And by the way, it's supposed to be on 5,000 machines. It's on 5,020, right? No, it's is it configured right? Is it installed in all the right places? If I get alert, if something happens bad, is it gonna work? Say it works. Is the second sensor in the equation gonna notice that there was an alert that fired and recognize it as something that we should do something about? Right? Those are all assumptions. We think all that stuff. I mean, how many times are you guys doing some sort of post-mortem on something and you're going, well, we thought it was working, but, boss, it was the IT guys over there that told me they had it installed. No. This is why we test. This is why we test. And the two most insightful questions, if I go to somebody that I respect and I hear this, is, do I have the right controls and do they work? And if somebody says that, I'm willing to work with that. Because we all, I used to say to my friend, we all kind of suck. It's just a matter of who sucks less on any given day, right? We're all fighting this thing, and there are so many things to do. It's not about who's good or bad. It's about how hard we're going to work to get better every minute of every day. Next slide. You're doing a good job. All right, testing approach. So I'll tell you a story about when I was the CISO at Central Command. Who's from the agency? They're going to go, which agency? Because every intel community thinks that I'm the agency, right? The CIA is like, I'm the agency. And the NSA is like, well, not so fast. The agency that I'm talking about is the National Security Agency. They have a mission to secure, they have an interesting mission, one of which is to have visibility across some of the secure networks. So we got a lot of priority for their services based on all the things going on in Southwest Asia, Afghanistan, and Iraq, and for good reason, right? That's where the command and control networks had to work. We couldn't afford to have anything happen. So I got a lot of those red team assets from the agency to address us. And I'm like, great. The problem was they'd get in and they'd send me this report, say, you suck. Thank you very much. But they wouldn't say why. They didn't say how they got in. They wouldn't do anything. Give me this big scary report. And stuff, right? Boom. And then say, fix that call so when you got them fixed, and maybe we'll do it again. I'm like, that's not working. It took me a number of iterations to go to leadership and go, you know what, I just don't even want them. Just get them out, because they're not helping us. So if you're going to design a testing program, it's got to be about getting better together. So it's got to be about, hey, red team and blue team, there's no reason to have both unless your overall objective is to make you more secure. Does it make sense? Why would we do that exercise? It's not about who wins or loses. It's got to be about who wins together. So the collaboration piece to this is critical, and it's all about learning and teaching together. Because even my red team guys, I go, hey, how would you detect that? You know what? Most of the time, they got no clue. And you know why? They know what it's doing. And they know that it's going to get this effect. But they have no idea what Blue Force tool is capable of detecting it half the time. Right? And there's nothing against them. They don't really care at the end of the day. As long as it's working and they maintain some sort of persistence or foothold. So it's having both teams there working together that makes it work. So that's the key piece to it. This is another one they hate. Everything is a finding. And what I'm trying to go through here is, hey, here's an approach for testing that I've come to find works. And these are just some of the key tenets. So everything is a finding. What does that mean? And my guys hate this, and they've hated it in the military too. That means everything you try as a red teamer, everything gets documented. Everything. And the reason you do that is because the blue guy wants to know what worked from his perspective, right? He wants to know what controls are working. What don't I have to worry about? And the red team, this guy says, that's a failure, right? I wasn't able to get through this thing, so I'm failing. No, that's not helpful. Everything is a finding. And that makes for some interesting, how many people think red team guys like to write? How many people think it's really easy for me to get them to write everything is a finding? Not so much. In fact, anybody is a good red teamer and they can write just a little bit, like English. Come see me afterwards. Come see me afterwards. So everything is finding. It's a key piece, and I think what we find is that our CISOs, our executives love that piece of it. Continuous, self-evident, right? So if you just test one time a year, things change. The bad guys change what they do all the time, and our environments today change at a rate that I'm always absolutely stunned by. So if those two things are changing, then why would you only test once a year? I don't know why you would. So you have to have a little bit more frequency in your testing. Comprehensive. So I don't believe that just having manual testing, not manual, but complex human adaptive testing. That's what red team testing is. Meaning you got a smart guy on the other end trying to solve problems to hack you. But you should also test your detection controls, right? And with automated scripts, just make sure they're working. Just make sure your sensor to your SIM or your sensor to your console, whatever it is, that has to work. So, and you don't necessarily need a real expensive effort to get that to work. Just, there's all kinds of stuff out there to be able to test a lot of those controls. So just use it. So the automated piece is very, very important. And then obviously you're testing all kinds of controls, right? I mean, when we get in there, it wouldn't surprise anybody. Everything from indisciplines to exposure of infrastructure to default creds to all that stuff. It's all in there. So you're not only testing your detection controls, you're testing your exposure controls, you're testing your technical controls. All of them are being done. Start small, crawl, walk, run, and then you got to tailor it. Like I have clients who are like, don't you touch my executives. We love executives. We love executives. Some of them are like, no, you're not going to mess with them, right? Or they'll tell me what I can hit and what I can't. So we have to tailor that because it's you just do that. You want to explain this slide? Why? No, you don't. I won't let you. Okay, so there's only one message on this slide. So I'll try to explain it, but remember one thing. Know your network. Know your environment. If you don't know your environment, you can't secure it. This is a fancy way. This is a crossover error rate, right? So along the left hand is the number of alerts. Along the horizontal axis is the sensitivity of your sensor, right? Could be let's just say it's your AV, okay? So if you look at the curve that goes this way, right, goes low to high, that's your false positive line. The more sensitive your sensor is, the more alerts you get, right? You're going to get all kinds of alerts, false positives and true positives. You want true positives. The problem with that curve is there's two sensors in this environment. The first one is the technology. What's the second one? A human. You desensitize the human, it doesn't matter how good that is. It doesn't. Because if you're spamming them every day and the mindless numbing, false positive, false positive, false positive, that is not helping. So you get into this conundrum with detection controls where you want to move that line over, that green line that's up there. And you want to move that green line because you want to reduce the overall alert volume, but you can't move it too far because then you're going to miss a true positive, or they call it. Whoever came up with false negative? Really? How about just saying you miss a true positive? Everybody good with that? We don't want to miss a true positive. So the issue with that is we always want to move it over, right? And we always want to desensitize that technical sensor to save our human sensor. But there's a real easy fix here, and that is know your network. So I'll use a PowerShell example. How many people have PowerShell running on their network? I have administrators doing things with it every minute of every day from all kinds of places. So if you have an alert on an endpoint that says, tell me when PowerShell is being used, how many people think that's useful? It's not really useful. But we have them. I mean, we'll put that in. If you want to know about it, we'll put that in. But then you're going to get that sharp line. You don't want the sharp line. You want the green line that you can't see up there. I love it in GA. You want that green line, and that green line says, the rule goes like this. Tell me when PowerShell is being used. Tell me when it's not Johnny Joe or Sally Mae. And tell me when it's outside the change window. And tell me when it's not from these hosts. I just moved that line down. I just moved that line down so now, and you can get that line really flat to where that's a high fidelity alert. Every time it fires, it's something I need to look at. And all it takes is knowing your network. That's the key. That's the key. Next slide. Yeah, this is just a scene setter. My guys told me to put this in because, like, you got to bring them back so you can go into each area. Next slide. You see how that works? Like, now I'm taking a piece out of it, and now I'm going, now I'm going into this one. So OSINT, exposures. I mean, they're not really that, they're not a super sexy type of campaign, but gosh, do we find all kinds of stuff with it. We're really looking for three categories of target. I'm a targeter. I want to target things. Military guys want to blow stuff up. You can't blow stuff up. Although, yeah, we actually, there is some things you can do. We're targeting employees, we're targeting technical infrastructure, we're targeting physical infrastructure, right? So that's typically the target areas. You can go onto LinkedIn, one of my favorite things, right? We have recruiters. How many people have recruiters? They've got this professional license for LinkedIn, right? And so I go, tell me all the new employees from company ABC in the last 90 days. And it's awesome. It comes up in perfect form. And then all I got to do is say, okay, how many of these guys just got promoted within, and how many of them are just new, really new. Man, all you got to do is find 6 of those guys, maybe 8. And then you just do a very clever email that says, I'm the CEO, welcome. Great to have you. Why don't you click on my command philosophy and I'll tell you how to be successful here. Touchdown. Every time, right? Or, how about do you want to get paid? Maybe we thought you would. Please fill out all this payment information. Touchdown, right? I mean, it's all, they give you the targets right there. It's awesome. So, that's the people piece. There's all kinds of infrastructure. We've watched bank VTCs, right? And how red team guys are, check this out, boss. Like, holy crap, what's that? And then my favorite one is we're looking at a steam plant monitor that's, unprotected. And how many people think red team guys know what, kilopascals are? Like KPA. They're like, I don't know what this is. It's a cool looking meter, and it's KPA. I'm going, hey, Einstein. That's a pressure meter, and that's a damn steam plant, right? Yeah, we're looking at steam plant gauges. I mean, it's the exposure of infrastructure is there, right? So if you're not looking at this piece as part of your testing, you're crazy. And developers, they're my favorite. They're my favorite, right? These guys think they're really cute. They put stuff that they can get to from home, right? And it's got nothing on it, right? And then put API keys in it and all kinds of other good stuff, right? God bless them. Next slide. Third party remote access. We talked about this, but you have to do this. It's easy. Just ask your company, hey, who has access to my infrastructure in ways that that give them a little bit of privilege. And you guys know the deal, right? What happens? The CISO says, hey, we got to give ABC Supply Company access right away. And guess what they do? They run, and they give them credentials, and they go, boss, they got access to everything you said. And then I say, and about 10 times more shit that they shouldn't have access to, right? Because nobody looks at that, right? Nobody looks at that. You guys got to look at that. Yeah, they have access to this. What else do they have access to that we didn't intend for them to have access to? And you'll find all kinds of interesting things out there, right? I mean, I want to go into how many times that's never the case, that they only have access to what they should. They usually have access to all kinds of other stuff. It's very interesting. Next slide. Exploitation, all kinds of stuff. Physical is, a lot of people, we spend some time with physical because I think it's pretty quick to tighten those things up. It's usually very successful. It's targeted, meaning, unless a company thinks they have something they're going to go after, physical is something that you should always tighten up, but we're always successful with it. We're always successful doing the physical campaigns. And usually with not too many really high-speed controls, like the guys always want to walk up to a badge reader and get it to make their own badge, right? You guys see those kind of neat things? You don't need that shit. You just got to tailgate somebody or sweet talk somebody, you get right in. Even though it is kind of cool, you get right in. Have a badge, and get close to the reader, and somebody that's walking by and it sucks it all down. It's pretty cool. I get excited about it, but you don't need it. I'm just telling you, it's pretty easy to get in. So physical, social, we talked about wireless, old but new, all kinds of stuff. LTE modems we get access to. Usually usually getting in between the stream, that's kind of hard if it's encrypted. Just go for the endpoints. Normally they're always insecure in some way or another. There's even some cool things that you can do with mouse jacking that's actually a lot further distance than you would know. So a lot of wireless stuff that we do, and then fraud. Those are really interesting use cases. Anybody done fraud use cases with their company? Yeah, those are pretty cool. You got to spend a lot of time setting those things up and talk to your organization about, hey, tell me about the fraud experience. Because a lot of times fraud's not in the security play. It's not within security. You got to partner with them, right? So have them walk you through how fraud is perpetrated and see if there's a technical component to that you can actually validate or test. And oftentimes there will be. Not always. Yeah, there are people that take over my clients' accounts and, then they're acting like your client. I can't fix that, stupid. You got to do that, right? So that's sometimes it's not an easy thing to do. Next slide. Post-X, most important, really most important campaigns. What we do here is we'll say, hey, we'll just do a recon campaign. Let's start with fingerprinting and real small, really light types of reconnaissance activities. Then we'll do some light, port scanning. We'll start using some other stuff where we're enumerating domains and all that stuff. And you just step up the noise. And we do that in all of the different campaigns. Just see where is the threshold of detection. And they're really good in really setting the conditions for catching bad guys. This is where you catch them. All the times, and when I was the chief of cyber warfare at Central Command, even the really good guys at the agency, you say, hey, where did you get that access? No clue. No clue. Hey, I'm on a box. Great. I'm a guy that wants effects, right? I want something to blow up. I want something to be shut off. I want to destroy something. So how close are you to the lights in Tehran? Hell if I know, boss. We'll find out. In order for them to find out, they have to get noisy. They have to. That's when they get noisy. They get noisy when they got to move from the foothold to the target. And the two most noisy things that they're going to do is reconnaissance and priv-es. That's where you're going to catch them. And it's just, that's the vulnerability point for bad guys. That's a focus area of our testing, should be a focus area of your security programs. Next slide. Actions on the objective. Again, we'll say, hey, we're here, we're going to go after something critical. Just, hey, what's important to you? We'll go after it. Next slide. Some lessons learned. So these are things that I would tell you about the program. Like, hey, things that we learned over time that help us make better programs. The first one is, hey, we talked about this collaborative approach. If you don't go in first and say, hey, this is all about us getting better together, then you get this defensive mindset between red and blue. If you don't diffuse that early on, you're going to get the same old crap. Training blue teams is really important. Like, a lot of them haven't seen what a real attack looks like, or they've overlooked it. So it's really helpful to train those guys in this. But what I'll tell you is telling them or not telling them has virtually no impact on the campaign outcome. Why? Why? Because if the sensor network doesn't pick it up, they're not going to see it anyway. So, people will argue with me all day long, oh, I want it to be a black box, right? My philosophy was, hey, these guys are coming at us, and here's kind of the window. And I give them a window. And then they get real busy, and they start trying to prep all their stuff and look at all their controls. I'm like, why don't you do that every minute of every day? Right? So I would actually get more out of them than the proverbial feeding. Like, hey, you missed this. Boom. Hey, you missed this. Boom. No. My philosophy is I would tell them. I don't tell them like exactly the attack vector and any of that. Hey, we're being aggressive. I don't think there's anything wrong with that part. But it's really up to the client. The next one, don't be surprised if your findings make it to the board level, right? That's good and bad. That's good and bad. If it's couched correctly, it's good, right? If you do it right and you say, hey, this campaign validated this purchase, and, look what we did, boss. We did good here, but we still have some holes here. That's good. If you just go in and say the red team, ate our lunch, you're going to get smashed. They're going to go, how long have you been working here? And how long would you like to be working here? So it's just the way that you couch that. Security leaders love everything as a finding, right? They love that. They want to know what they're good at, what they need work on. Most popular campaign today was the third-party campaigns. The ones where these are places where I would never think I could get attacked. They're the soft underbelly of most of our programs that we go after. So that's the most popular. Next. Okay, most common observations. This is now about your security program, where the gaps are. Obviously, new employees, anybody that has to talk to somebody, if you're a recruiter, if you're a marketer, if you're a newbie, those people should especially be looked at for more training. They are targets for exploitation. Those developers, administrators, they're post-ex targets. I mean, I'm going after them every minute of every day. Normally, I can't get them to click that much, but I'm going after them. I'm going after them if I'm inside the network. And, I can find out, like, all kinds of things, like this guy, because he put on his LinkedIn that he uses this technology, that technology, that technology, he probably is the admin on that one or that device. I mean, and we can go after them that way. Most organizations have very limited visibility on their perimeters, right? 80's not enough. It's not enough. And everything happens on the endpoint. It's the new perimeter. It's the new perimeter. If you don't have visibility on your endpoint, it's game over. It's game over. So whether it's EDR, whether it's next-gen AV, I'd tell you need both. And I would tell you need some level of whitelisting. Some level of, some way to say this is normal, this is not. So the endpoint is the new perimeter. Credential monitoring is absolutely essential. So first thing, reduce your attack surface. Not everybody needs a credential, first of all. Put 2FA on it and know when they're using it. One of my favorite controls is, hey, this login happened to this device, but it didn't happen from, the PAM or the CyberArk, right? It was supposed to come from and be brokered by that vault, and it wasn't. That's a great alert. So if you do that, that's PrivEsk. If you are all over PrivEsk, people aren't moving. They're just not moving. They're not moving around your network. You'll have lots of compromises, but you'll never have a breach. Next is, the overall thing, right? Hey, I don't know what's important in my network, really? And you're the security guy? You gotta know. You gotta know what your critical assets are, and you gotta be able to harden them. Next. So, secure the perimeter. Get control of your credentials. Make sure you bolster your critical applications all along the way and reduce your attack surface. That's it. Do that. And 90% of the things we do every minute of every day won't happen. Won't happen. Next slide. So, we talked about the risk, right? That's going to continue. So, the good news is business is strong for us. That's the good news. Business is good. But in my mind, if you don't test, you don't know. And testing is it's the way to have your program mapped to the way a bad guy would do it. And you'll actually accelerate improvements in your posture with a good testing campaign. All right. That was way too long. No. Thank you for listening to this boring talk, and I am subject to your questions. But if they're hard, I have lots of plans. 2? We're going all the way back to 2? Why can you find 2? It's this numeral looks like this. Yes. Don't do it. Yeah, I would say no. Wait, what? Do you want me to write a memo for you on that one, really? Yeah, no. Don't do it. Okay. Do you want me to say something else? Yeah. Yeah, there's some other things you might be able to do. Yeah, I would put much more of a probe on those people. You may not, you're not probably going to win the whole thing where like the blunt force object may not work, which is what I like to use, but I don't always get to use blunt force. All right, everybody's moving on. They want coffee and donuts. I'll be up here afterwards. Thank you for your time and attention.
BSides Tampa.